Welcome to the History of Rock. His name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He is the rock star. Class is in session. I left a little bit of this there for you.
It's never going to happen again. I can feel you every time. It's never happening again.
What?
I'm never going to make that mistake again.
What mistake?
The one that you wait for. The one that you wait for.
Which
is
one?
he going to say History of Rock or Rockstar 101? I'm never saying it again. I'm never doing it again.
Okay, no, he says that. Now, next episode, he's going to screw it up again.
No.
But anyway.
No, go ahead.
All right, so a couple of things here. It's actually been a couple of weeks since Shim and I recorded because I had my trip to Hawaii. We had covered Lollapalooza in our previous episodes. And so I started to think about it, and I was like, where would be a good place to go now? Because we essentially went from Jane's Addiction to Lollapalooza. Where do we go from there? And we had mentioned that during Lollapalooza 94, some of the bands had actually removed themselves from select dates because they went and performed at Woodstock 94. So I thought, well, why not look into Woodstock? So as I was flying to Hawaii, I watched the HBO documentary on Woodstock 99, which, of course, that one's known for, Limp Bizkit's out there telling us to break stuff. And, and there's the big bonfires, like Metallica was out there and Rage Against the Machine. And it's basically this is what's wrong with the white male of America these days.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that particular festival had some of the best bands in history, and it was amazing, and the footage is epic. But all anyone talks about is Fred Durst on a floating door going, kill!
Yeah, break some stuff.
Break stuff.
So I watched that and I was okay. So we've got to cover 99. We'd obviously have to cover 94. And then I was thinking about it. I'm like, okay, so we need to go all the way back to the beginning and got to cover Woodstock.
Got to
69, 100%. Baby. So that's what we're doing here in these next couple of episodes. The songs will be coming soon. So as Shim and I are recording these episodes, we're going to start recording the songs that we had talked about. And we know we have to do one of Shim imitating Fred Durst. I think that was one of the things that we had definitely said that we're going to have to do. But those episodes will be coming soon. When, I'm not 100% sure because we haven't recorded them yet. So we're going to figure that out.
We want to put the right amount of energy into them instead of, because what we're doing at the moment is fun and good, but we're getting like half a cool idea and then we move on. So we're going to just stop and spend a little more time.
We want to make sure that it's getting the proper amount of time. And also, as we're moving on here, the merchandise is available now. If you go to VivaLaMocha.com, check it out. Woo. There's your T-shirt. There's your cross-side bear right there. So if you guys want to order those, you can find them over at VivaLaMocha.com. And again, if they are out of a specific size, I think they have a way to track that on their website. If they don't, let me know, because then I'll know specifically what sizes to order when we reorder some stuff. So there's the cross-eyed bear, there's the Brandalorian shirt, there's also just the History of Rock. Which direction is it? Right there, right above me. There's a T-shirt
that's got time.
Yeah, the history. I'd be a terrible weatherman and be like, there's storms over here, and it's like, oh shit, nope, it's over there. So there's your History of Rock T-shirt as well. So you guys can check all that stuff out. And there's stickers for each one. And then when Shim and I come up with some other ideas, we'll obviously create more merchandise for that.
We'll just keep dumping stuff on you guys.
Yeah.
But by the way, we keep forgetting to say, but please, if you dig into stuff, hit the like, hit the subscribe, all the YouTube stuff with all the other YouTube videos that you see, because it really does help and get the word out there for everything that we're doing.
And anybody who has watched the previous episodes knows that we now have the little thing that goes click. Click across the screen, because I added that, and I even put a note in when Shim and I were talking about it, and he's like, I'll download it for you and I'll send it to you when we're done here, and he never fucking sent it.
I didn't do that. That did not happen. That is a thing that never happened. That's a thing I said would happen that never happened.
It never happened.
Why? I didn't do it. I forgot and then dismissed the thought, and just now it's come back up 2 weeks later.
But
that's the story. That's the history of the YouTube clicky click.
Yeah,
but
so
Brandon takes care of everything. But okay, here going on record, by the way, doing the finger thing. Brandon does everything. Make no mistake. Brandon does all of the work for this podcast. So go in the comment section and say, thank you for doing a good job and letting Shim ride your fucking coattails on a weekly basis.
Well, until we start writing the songs, because then that's when Shim's work comes into play, because I'm not the musician here, so... It'll all even itself out, it'll all work itself out there.
It's going to be fun.
So we're diving in here. We're talking about Woodstock. You look like you're going to say something. What's up?
No, I'm going to say something. So just so everyone knows what the trajectory of this episode is going to be. Normally, I read the show notes before we start. I read 2 paragraphs and stopped because this looks like it is a very interesting story. So if you want to stick around to the end, don't get bored because I didn't know any of this stuff about Woodstock. So we're going to get into it. So if there's a couple of stumbles and a couple of rabbit holes, just deal with it because it's going to be worth it. All right, go ahead. Let's get started.
Well, and the way that I wrote the notes, too, is there's some pretty lengthy paragraphs because it's explaining a lot. I try to keep them relatively short, so it's sort of a, here's your fact, and then Jim and I can comment on it and move on from there, where this one, there's a lot more to unpack.
This really is the history of Woodstock. This whole episode is the history of Woodstock. So it's going to be good.
Yeah, so, obviously after covering Lollapalooza, we felt like we needed to cover Woodstock 94, and then just eventually we've landed here on the original Woodstock. So, Shim, you can take it right there with the very first one on the note sheet.
Boom. Woodstock Music and Art Fair is what it was originally. It was held in August 15th to 18th, 1969 on Max Yasker's, is that right? Max Yasker's dairy farm in Bethel, New York, 40 miles from the town of Woodstock. Everyone thinks it was in Woodstock. It was barely in Woodstock. Just sounds cool.
It's not, and we're going to get to the reason why it was not in this episode as well. Yeah. Now, it was billed as an Aquarian exposition, 3 days of peace and music. It was also referred to as just the Woodstock Rock Festival, and it ended up attracting more than 400,000 people. And again, that's remember these numbers, because 400,000 people, they had sold this as, we'll get about 50,000 is what they were expecting. And we're going to get to this even more when it comes to the ticket pre-sales and how many people actually got in. And there's, all of this stuff, it's going to make even more sense. But just remember that 400,000 people showed up to the original Woodstock.
And I think, okay, here we go. The original idea. No, I'm just going to say, because I was already about to rabbit hole and be like, there weren't that many people at the other 2 Woodstocks combined, but that was because they managed it and prepared, and those ones still turned into a shit fest. So you can imagine how much possibly, I don't know, maybe, didn't get reported about the original Woodstock. There's a whole bunch of photos of how great it was, but shit went south. There was some problems at Woodstock, which we're going to get into.
Woodstock 94 had more people.
Had more people? Okay, all right. I haven't read it. I haven't read it. So here we go.
But also, again, so these 2 episodes, this one and the next episode, we're going to be covering Woodstock 69. And then the next 2 we'll do 94, and then we'll do 99 as well. So we're going to get to all of those numbers in the future. But I did just look it up here really quick. It shows that Woodstock 94 had 550,000 people attend.
Okay, all right.
Imagine that, dude.
Yeah. But that's I've toured a lot. I've been around. I've never seen a festival with 400,000 people. The most 80,000.
What's the most you've performed in front of?
60.
60,000? Would that have been at a like a stadium or a festival?
No, it was a European festival. European festivals, and the Big Day Out. The Big Day Out in Australia, and a few European festivals that we played that were just where Iron Maiden was headlining. Those are fucking big.
Yeah.
Those were and those are great. But they're outer body experiences, rock 'em ring type thing. So, but that's the most I'd ever play to. But that's enough. I mean, once you get to 60,000, another 100,000 people just turns into blur.
Yeah.
It's like green screen by that point.
Well, I've had people ask me before, what's the largest crowd that you've ever been on a microphone in front of? And it was probably 45, 50,000. And it would depend on, I think there's 2 events that I can think of that would have had about that many people. One was a Monster Jam, which working in radio broadcasting, if you ever want people to show up to your event, have tickets to Monster Jam. People gobble that shit up. They will drive an hour to go get Monster Jam tickets. And there was.
So hold on a second.
And it never mattered.
What is Monster Jam? What is Monster Jam?
Monster trucks.
Right, that's people who don't know wouldn't know that. So the monster truck, they're just called monster trucks.
Yeah, it's like the giant tires, like Bigfoot and Grave Digger. And remember, it's the guy who's Sunday, we're gonna sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge, like that. That's Monster Jam. And
great. We're gonna save you a seat, but you'll only need the edge.
No, we're gonna sell you the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. Yeah.
That voice is the best. I miss you on radio, man. I'm so glad we're doing this.
So there's that one, and then there was another festival that we did where I was up on a microphone, and it's about 50,000 people, and people have asked me, they're like, so how nerve-wracking is that, being in front of that many people? And I tell them, it's not as nerve-wracking as being in front of 25. It's not as nerve-wracking as being in front of 50, because you can see those people's faces. When there's not that many people, you can see their reaction, and you can see exactly how they are picking up what you're saying. Are they laughing? Was it a joke? Did it land?
My favorite thing with Ray, and this is I'm not going to name any names, okay? You're probably going to know who I'm talking about. But my favorite thing on a rock festival, but you imagine and rock festivals are usually affiliated with a local radio station. So radio DJs will come out and they'll say, hey, we're from the station, and there's a band coming. When a band comes on stage and says, make some fucking noise, blah. After the person says, make some fucking noise, the drummer goes, psh, and the guitar player goes, blah, 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 and there's a vibe. When a radio DJ gets up on stage, it's like, yo, this is Brandon from KLAQ, make some fucking noise. And they go, yeah. And then it goes silent, dead fucking silent. And he goes, so the next band is, and it fucking dies. The vibe, it's like there are some radio DJs that don't know how to continue to escalate the energy. So when you go make some noise and 60,000 people hit you with noise, it kind of throws a shock to your system. So if you don't have a band behind you to push back, unless you're like a seasoned stand-up comedian or a keynote speaker, you won't know how to match the energy. So sometimes it's the funniest thing to watch a radio DJ go up on stage. People don't think about it, but because this is our job, we go, oh, that's why that happened. One guy, imagine Brandon, if he sucked, gets on stage and goes, make some noise, because that's what I'm supposed to say. I saw a video last night when I Googled what to do on front of 50,000 people. Yeah. And they fucking hit you like a train and you go, oh, fuck. Okay, so the next band is, and they just shrivel like a cold dick in a pool. and you watch them die.
Oh man, and that was I love getting that reaction from a crowd, because that's you could build on that. But I know exactly what you're saying, because I've worked with a lot of people who never quite knew what they were doing, and
some people can't fucking handle it.
It's like I remember one of our festivals, Korn was headlining, and they're like, "Who's here for Korn?" Everybody's like,
yeah.
And they were like, oh, I should have ended with Korn, because they went the wrong way on the lineup.
Yeah.
So it was like Korn, and then they went to the opening band. It's like, no, you start with the opening band, and then you build your way to the headliner, because that's what people care about. And I was like, oh, I'm watching them just die this slow death on stage.
The only way to recover from that is like, who's here for Korn? Yeah, okay.
Cool, some other bands, let's get ready.
Everyone else. Fuck all the other bands. Yeah, let's just get, you're done. It's game over. Yeah,
well, and then, really quick, before we fell down this rabbit hole pretty hard.
Let's make a clip. By the way, side note, I need you to give me Zoom record permission so I can have my side.
You want me to do that in the middle of the podcast? Right here, fuck, I'll do it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Where do I do this at?
Just go to my thing in the for everyone in the chat right now. Go to my name in the chat. Give record permission. Anyone who knows how to do this, go and type in the chat right now. Brandon, you need to go and type.
I just did
it. Okay, thank you very much.
And you can hear it go.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, there it is.
There you go.
And then you get to see, look, you can see on my screen there. It's like, oh, look at this person.
This is how professional we are. So what were you going to ask, Brandon?
Oh, I wasn't going to ask anything. It was going to be the one festival that I was up on stage for. The audience had just gotten into throwing water bottles in the crowd, and not necessarily empty water bottles.
No.
So as I was getting ready to walk up on stage, our promotions manager came over to me and he was like, "Hey, could you tell them to stop throwing the water bottles?" And I go, "No." And he was like, "Why not?" And I go, "Because then they're gonna fucking throw them at me."
Yeah.
Like, what do you think's gonna happen if I go out there? I'm like, "Hey, could you guys stop throwing the water bottles? They're gonna fucking hurl every single one of those things at my head, man." So I was like, just let it died off. Like, it wasn't that big of a deal. So
I'll tell you one about that. First time I ever saw that, there was some people throwing water bottles on stage. Breaking Benjamin was headlining. Papa Roach was the next band. It was Breaking Benjamin, Papa Roach, Red, and Us, early days. And they decided they were going to get out and do a competition. So Ben, the singer from Red, and Jacoby got on stage and tried to see how, and the rule is you have to take the lid off in general. Like you have to have an open water bottle, specifically because if you throw a closed water bottle, you'll kill someone.
It's a missile.
So the lid's off. So as you throw it, the water flies out and it doesn't hurt someone. So Jacoby throws it and they're going into the crowd. They're like, hey, over there in the crowd, we're going to throw it at you guys since you guys are throwing fucking water bottles at us. The show's about to be over. Here we go. Jacoby chucks it. You see the water fly out because the lid's off and it gets pretty good. Singer from Red comes out, chucks it a little bit further. Ben comes out, doesn't give a fuck, leaves the lid on and goes, the lid's on, fucking move. And he just chucks it as hard. It goes flying, cracks someone in the middle of the fucking head. I saw the guy's head cock back and it was like snap, like something out of a movie. And I remember thinking, oh no, everything's over. Like the show's over. Cops are going to come. There's been an injury. But the guy literally stood up a second later from the back of the crowd and was like, Ben's awesome. Fucking yeah. And he was bleeding. He was bleeding from his fucking face. It was like he copped it right there. And that was the first and last time that anyone dealt with the water bottle things after that. Like everyone knew if you keep throwing these water bottles, Ben will take you down. Or Ben, being who he is, will just not play. And everyone wanted to see him fucking play. So it shut everyone up.
All right, let's talk about some peace, love, and music here at Woodstock 69. Smooth transition.
Going back to Woodstock 69, the original idea was to build a recording studio in Woodstock, New Jersey?
New York.
Woodstock, New York. Joel Rosenman and John P. Roberts. Those names are probably going to come up fairly often.
A lot.
Joel Rosenman and John P. Roberts were New York City entrepreneurs building a recording studio complex in Manhattan. Michael Lang and Artie Cornfield were music producers and promoters, so their lawyer suggested that they reach out to Rosenman and Roberts about building a studio in Woodstock. So it was originally, the genesis was the idea of building a recording studio in Woodstock.
Yeah, and I had originally just had that note in there about how it was their lawyer saying, hey, these guys are building a recording studio in Manhattan. You should reach out to them about this. But then I looked into it a little bit more, and I found out that Roberts and Rosenman were looking to pitch a story for a TV series about entrepreneurs who had more money than ideas, and each week their antics would get them into a new series of problems. To research for the show, they put out an ad in the Wall Street Journal claiming they were young men with unlimited capital looking for business ideas. They received more than 5,000 responses, with one of them being Lang and Cornfield. The idea was enough to pique their interest and pursue meeting Lang and Cornfield. Roberts and Rosenman didn't like the idea of a, quote, studio in the woods, which is essentially what would have been with being up in Woodstock, but they counter-proposed a concert featuring the kind of artists known to frequent that area, like Bob Dylan. Make note of that, because Bob Dylan was kind of the idea behind it. He didn't perform. And then, another cool thing that's coming up here, it's going to be in the next episode, is we're going to go over sort of some backstories and some little tidbits of some of the bands that did perform, but then we're also going to talk about the bands that did not. Some of the big name acts that either turned it down or they weren't able to make it for some weird reason. Like, there's a lot of really cool stories there, and that's going to be coming up in the next episode.
So the approach from each side was different. The approach from each side was different, with Roberts being disciplined, Lang being more laid back. Lang saw Woodstock as more of a relaxed way to bring entrepreneurs together. And by the way, Roberts was, this is where I stopped reading. Yeah. This is where I stopped reading. Roberts was the heir to the Polydent Polygrip denture adhesive fortune. That was the moment when I went, this story is epic. I need to. So I have no idea what's coming next. So go ahead.
Take it. And this is where Shim and I struggle with how much do we want him to, read ahead of time so he has some knowledge of the subject. Quite frankly, I prefer it. I've done the research. Read it live. Like like the first time you've read this is here because then we're going to get your natural reaction. Now, of course, we miss out on a few things when it comes to like that's what made doing the songs difficult because I would try to give him hints of, hey, this is coming up in this episode. Maybe this is something to think about. But that's why we're kind of pivoting on that idea where we're not doing the songs in these episodes anymore. We're going to do song exclusive episodes for History of Rock.
So now, if everyone watching right now in the comments section, I want to know how many people watching right now just kind of figured that Woodstock was just a few guys got together and said, let's put on a music festival and put some big bands on, it'd be great. And then more people showed up than they planned, and that was the end of it. I did not think it was going to be entrepreneurs, studio in the woods, make a TV show, fucking like it's already going it's off track. I want to know how many, if you thought Woodstock was just a festival that just went a little bit weird and then, okay, that's the end of it. It's just a story where Hendrix played one time. But if you expect, I don't think anyone did. So go ahead. The original what?
It's even interesting that you brought up Hendrix because there's a really interesting side note about Hendrix that we're going to get. So I essentially at this point, I'm spending half the time that I'm talking just promoting stuff that's coming up in a future episode. But the original venue, it was supposed to be the town of Woodstock itself, but the local residents, they were like, we don't want this stuff here. So after a couple of failed locations, Roberts and Rosenman thought they had a location at a 300-acre Mills Industrial Park. Good God.
Industrial Park.
In the Industrial Park in Walk Hill, New York. But just like Woodstock, the residents, they shot down the idea. The town even passed a law requiring a permit for any gathering over 5,000 people, and they made it so that the conditions to get that permit, it was virtually impossible. So there was no way that you're going to have it there because the residents were like, look, we have this land, but we don't want this kind of stuff going on here. And you get into the whole hippie aspect of things and how the media looked at hippies and how a lot of people were just, these hippies they're just an irritant on society and they need to fall back in line and all that. Like these are like underlying themes pretty consistently with this.
Hippies were the first cancel culture, weren't they? They were the first ones. I mean, up until then, everyone was fairly uniform. Everyone was like, yeah, we're doing things this way. This is society. Hippies were the first ones that really came out and were like, we're going to challenge these ideas. But they were so non-threatening in the way they did it. They weren't rioting. They were just like, we're just going to sit around and pick flowers and not work jobs. Yeah, that's it. And smoke weed.
Peace, love.
I wish I could have smoked weed back then. The weed in the 60s must have been so nice. Not like the shit now that just destroys your sense of self. You know what I mean?
Jesus. Well, you honestly don't think that the weed's better now with the kind of science and the cross-pollination and everything else going on and the fact that, at least here in the States, a lot of places it's legal?
No, it's nice that it's legal, but I remember... Okay, fucking rabbit holes. But I remember the first time I smoked leaf. For anyone that doesn't know anything about marijuana, when I was a kid, I was like 16, 17. Yeah, when you smoke weed, you smoke bud. And there was one time when there was a kid in the group that we were hanging out with, and he had a whole bunch of leaf. And I was like, what's leaf? He was like, well, that's the bit that you just kind of throw away. It still gets you high, but you got to smoke a lot of it. So we didn't have any bud. So we were like, okay, cool, we'll smoke that instead. And we did, and it was wonderful. I just was able to keep smoking. Every 20 minutes, I'd have a whole joint. And it was a mild buzz, and I'm like, this is great. I'm not fucking thinking about how I'm a piece of shit in life and why did this happen? And where's my mom gone? And I'm just like, hey, look at that pretty color. It was way more chill. So anyway.
Do you think any of that has to do with whether or not it was like an indica or sativa?
Yeah.
Or anything like that.
All that's, I don't give it. This is the problem with weed, okay? I don't want to do the research. Jack Daniels, done.
Whiskey.
When it comes to drinking, you don't need to research, well, how is it made and where does it come from and what does it trigger? And with weed, you've got to be there are different strands and different things. And it's and they ruin you. If you do the wrong thing, they ruin your night. If you take the wrong shot of tequila, you have a bad aftertaste for 10 seconds. You have some Coke, you're done. With fucking weed, you take the wrong strand of weed, your night is ruined. Fuck that, man. Fuck it.
So when you come into town for Rage Against the Machine, you know...
Rest in the house, man.
When we go to Rage Against the Machine, we're in an area where it's legal.
That's fine. Secondhand is great. I love secondhand. I love secondhand.
All right, go on. I love secondhand.
They eventually, so going back to Woodstock, wow, this is going to be a long episode. They landed on Max Jasker's dairy farm. How that happened has many different stories depending on who you ask. Awesome. Just like the other locations, Bethel authorities were told that they expected no more than 50,000 people, and the plot thickens. And that's
kind of the underlying theme here, and we're going to get to this here in a few of these notes where they talk about how many, like the pre-sale tickets and things like that, and they honestly were, again, going from wanting to build a studio in Woodstock to arguably one of the biggest festivals ever to be thrown.
Yeah.
It's just an interesting story. So some of the residents of Bethel, they opposed the festival with signs that said, "Buy no milk, stop Max's hippie music festival." That's what they would post those up around the town.
They went to put him out of business?
Because he allowed this festival to happen on his land. So the people who were pissed, they're like, look, if we're going to take somebody out, we're taking out Max.
Bro, we've got to hurt somebody.
There were even some issues with the permits because they were technically issued, but when Rosenman went to go pick them up, the town officials kind of withheld them, and they're like, we're kind of second guessing this thing, and we're not really 100% sure we want you to do it. And Rosenman was like, well, that's tough shit because you guys have already issued them. Give me the fucking permits like we're doing this thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he was that angry about it, but that's how I would.
No, but I can understand.
I've been listening.
So the planning, the planning began in January of 1969 with the first band signing in April. The band was Creedence Clearwater Revival. They were the first band to sign onto Woodstock, who agreed to play for $10,000, the equivalent of $74,000 in 2021. 70, that's not that much.
It's not a lot.
Before CCR signed, the festival was having difficulty signing any big name acts. But once Creedence drummer Doug Clifford said, once Creedence signed, everybody else jumped in line and all the other big acts came, which makes sense.
So CCR, they ended up not going on until 12:30 in the morning. So just after midnight, and John Fogerty said, quote, "We were ready to rock out, and we waited, and finally it was our turn. There were 500,000 people asleep. These people were out. It was sort of like a painting of a Dante scene, just bodies from hell, all intertwined and asleep, covered in mud. And this is the moment I will never forget as long as I live. A quarter mile in the darkness, on the other edge of this bowl, there was some guy flicking his bick, and in the night I hear, 'Don't worry about it, John. We're here with you.' I played the rest of the show for that guy."
Dude, they were literally asleep. They'd fallen asleep in the mud.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it.
I hadn't thought about it.
Well, I mean, they kind of kept things going overnight, and this is something that obviously we'll get into when we're talking about Woodstock 94 and Woodstock 99, is they would have those raves in the middle of the night where you have your
to keep them,
standard set.
Here's the fundamental difference between Woodstock 69 and 94. They didn't have ecstasy back then. They did that. That is a massive difference. That is a game-changing fucking thing.
Acid. LSD.
Yeah, but acid isn't that much of acid isn't a stimulant the same way that speed and fucking ecstasy has got a whole bunch of coke and speed mixed in with it. Like, that's designed to keep you up. And like everyone, if there was ecstasy at Woodstock 69, everyone would have been the guy with the Bic lighter. We're here with you, John.
Yeah.
Fucking go.
CCR would have been.
John.
CCR would have been.
Speed up the tempo, John. John, speed up the tempo. Come on, John. Come on, Creedence. Speed up the tempo. Let's go. Imagine the whole fucking night. It's 1969 Woodstock being like, it's.
Bang the beat to Fortunate Son.
Yeah.
A little bit of that, huh?
Remixes before remixes, man.
Oh my God! I went on a drive today. My wife and I were out.
By the way, sorry. Side note, I want to hear this, but that thing that you just said, "We're with you, John." What does that remind you of from our stories? That was reasonably good.
Oh fuck, that's right. That was reasonably good.
One fucking guy afterwards. Yeah.
That
anyway,
was.
Go ahead.
God, see, that was an old gaming clip too.
Yeah.
I would say that was reasonably good. No, so the wife and I, we were out running errands today, and I just flipped on this random kind of classic rock-ish playlist on Spotify, and CCR was the first thing that popped up. Yeah. And I swear to God, it's one of those songs that every single time it plays, if you're listening to Fortunate Son, it takes you to Vietnam, because it's the song that's used for every goddamn movie when you're in Vietnam.
Yep.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Oh, the red, white, and blue. See, when we get to our song episodes, this is what you guys are going to get. This is the joy where I will take lead vocals, Shim will be in the background, and that is the gold you are going to get at. I'm kidding. There's no way that's going to.
That's the value that you're not going to pay for. Tickets for the 3-day event cost. So tickets for the wow. Okay, here we go. Now let's get into some reality. Tickets for the 3-day event cost $18 in advance. $18 for 3 days. $24 at the gate, which is the equivalent to $130 and $180 respectively today. Ticket sales were limited. Huh?
Like
what?
So for a 3-day event, $130. That's not that bad, right?
That is not bad at all. So what the hell's going on with our situation? Why is shit so expensive
Inflation.
for everyone now?
Thanks a lot, Biden.
Wow, let's go there. Ticket sales were limited to record stores in the greater New York area. So you can only buy a ticket from a New York store from a record store in New York, or by mail via post office box at the Radio City Station post office in Midtown Manhattan. That was the only ways to get tickets.
That's my understanding.
That's fucked up. 500,000 through those couple of channels.
Oh, no, wait, no. Oh, hold on. No, that's not 500,000 through those channels.
Okay. All right, well, let's keep going. However, organizers couldn't install fences and ticket booths in time, so it essentially became a free concert. Organizers anticipated 50,000 people showing up. They sold 186,000 advance tickets, and 400,000 people showed up. So that means more than 50% of the crowd didn't fucking pay.
Well, I mean, kind of. So that's the advance tickets, because like it said, for the event, you could spend $18 in advance, or you could purchase for $24 at the gate. But they ran into so many issues when it came to trying to get this thing set up. Like there were so many people that showed up in the town of Bethel. They just stopped enforcing all of their codes. Like all laws just kind of went out the window, because they were kind of fearing that it would cause a chaos in the crowd, you know, if they try to enforce too much. So with the lack of proper construction, because of the delay in finding a location, the facilities were not equipped to provide sanitation and first aid, causing hundreds of thousands of people struggling against the bad weather, food shortages, and poor sanitation, which is interesting because even as I was watching the HBO documentary on Woodstock 99, and we'll get to the actual documentary that came out the year after on Woodstock. It came out in 1970, and it makes it look like this was just a big peace and love fest. It was amazing. The weather was a little bit bad, but there was no problems whatsoever, and this was just the greatest festival of all. Well, it's because that Roberts and Rosenman, they had the rights to the documentary, so they were making it look like this was the greatest fucking thing on the planet. When in reality, it was not that good. Like there was a lot of issues with it, and they brought that up in the HBO documentary that I watched on Woodstock 99, where they say, yeah, if you go watch the 1970 documentary, it's going to make it look great. It looks amazing. Yeah. But if you go to the actual stories of the shit that happened, it wasn't. Now, granted, there wasn't the bonfires and the destruction that happened like from Woodstock 99. And another quick side note here, because we're actually getting ready. We got to start wrapping this one up here. But it was getting to the point where when I'm watching that one, I remember this specifically. When they were talking about Woodstock 99 and they were interviewing some of the people who attended afterwards. And this might have been on MTV. It might have been on another channel. And they had these 90s hippie douchebags who were like, oh, my parents were from 69. And I was like, yeah, and you showed up to a Metallica show and Rage Against the Machine. What the fuck did you expect? Because they were the ones that were like, we came here for peace and love, and you got fucking Fred Durst out there saying break stuff. Had you not fucking heard him? Did you not look into the kind of concert you were going to? You just saw the name Woodstock, you fucking idiot, and you just went there not anticipating what was actually there? like what the actual bands were going to perform. Like Rage Against the Machine ain't gonna come out there and sing fucking Kumbaya. Like that's not the fact that you expected that's kind of on you, man. And I close my eyes and I can now. Granted, my memory is probably completely warped on this, but I can almost picture that it was like 3 people. It was like a guy and 2 chicks, and they were all bent out of shape about how you have Fred Durst up there yelling to break stuff, and that's not peace and love. And they were talking about the fires and stuff like that. That happened the day after Limp Bizkit performed. Like that wasn't until after all that stuff. Like they make it seem like when Fred Durst was up on stage or he was on that piece of plywood out on the crowd, which just ended up looking awkward, by the way.
It did.
There's
one good photo. There's one good photo of that where he looks, and the rest of it is like he's just like trying not to fall off.
Yeah, I mean, you can go on YouTube right now, and you can see, I think, any of the full performances. You can see Limp Bizkit, you can see Korn, Metallica, Rage Against the Machine. You can see all of them.
Yeah, it's great.
Right at the very end of Limp Bizkit, that's when he jumps down and he's like, hey, can I come out there with you guys? So they try to push the crowd out, and the crowd, it's too many fucking people. Like, what do you expect to happen?
Yeah, it's a mess.
So then there's a piece of plywood. He was like, oh, can I use that? And like, can I stand on that? And it's like 5 minutes of him standing and like just
trying to get up there.
And he's on the microphone and he's just like holding the piece of plywood like this. And it's like, dude, like just go back up on fucking stage and sing.
Yeah, I know. I love the way people romanticize some of this stuff. And I'm very interested in getting to this part of the episode where we actually talk about the fact that Woodstock 99 went to shit because it was poorly organized. If everything had been running on time and been done well, everything would have been fine. People weren't upset with Fred Durst or any bands. They were upset with the fact that they didn't get what they fucking paid for. And I didn't even know the details. You're going to fill me in.
Oh, but I know all that.
I've been to festivals, and when shit goes wrong, organizers will never, ever get out and say, we should have put up more bathrooms, more water facilities, had more food. And they don't do that. They say, Fred Durst said to break things and incite crowds.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. All right. So we'll make this the last thing with this episode before we get to our encore here. Because here in El Paso, the radio station that I worked for, used to have events. I think it was almost like once a month. When I first started in 2015, right. We had an event every single month. And then I think they realized that's too much. Like we're oversaturating the market with, and we've talked about this, how it's always a fest. There was Ice Cream Fest, there was Street Fest, and all this other stuff. And there was an Oktoberfest that we threw. Except I think they called it Octobeer Fest. And it was out at this old baseball stadium. And God, still to this day, this is one of the funniest things that ever happened in an event, at least on the planning side of things. Because we showed up, and the VIP area was this area of the stadium that was kind of in the middle of the stands where it's a nice big long flat spot. So you can set up some tables for a VIP area. The VIPs were promised private bathrooms. All they did was put like 3 porta potties in the VIP area, so the whole VIP area smelled like shit. And that's the thing. It's like this baseball stadium where it was at, which no longer exists. The actual bathrooms they had there were fine. They were clean, and and there was no lines. But they put these 3 porta potties in the VIP area, so the whole place fucking stunk.
Oh Jesus!
But then when we tried to tell like the people who were behind it with the events, they were like, I don't want to hear it. We're like, well, did you put a shitter next to the VIP area? Like, what did you think was going to happen? Like, Jesus Christ! But anyway, and I could go on and on about a lot.
We're never going to finish this episode. What was it?
No, we'll wrap. That'll be the last one. So that's we'll end it there. The last one we ended up with was me talking about how the bad weather, the food shortages, and the poor sanitation, and we'll get to
that's where it starts. So for when we pick up on the next episode, guys, that's where we're going to be starting. So make sure you do what we said. Hit the like and subscribe and notification thing, and go and tune into the next one so that the notification pops up when the next one's coming in, because it gets a lot worse. It gets very interesting from here.
Well, I mean, kind of. It's the majority
Brandon.
of
It gets very interesting from here. Tune in and watch it.
Very interesting. Well, the stuff that's going to be coming up in the next episode.
Fucking hell.
God damn it, man. It's going
Fucking
to talk
hell.
about some of the issues that the bands had that actually performed
Yeah.
there. But then the stuff that I found really interesting was why certain bands didn't perform. Whether they
And we're gonna
turned
get
it
into
down.
that.
Oh, and that's all in the next episode, baby.
We're going to get into that next week. It's going to be great. Yeah, this is going to... I'm reading them and I'm like, this is fucking great. This is going to be great. Okay.
What would be the name of our festival? Podcast Fest. Rockstar Fest.
We should do... You know what's funny? We could put on... Okay, this is a burn. I'm just letting everyone know this is a massive burn coming. We could put on the History of Rock Festival, and all we do is put on the bands that are in the top 10 at Active Rock right now.
Yeah. Yeah, well.
And that's the history of rock.
Really quick. All right. You know what? I'm going to save this for the encore. I had one more thought. I'm going to save it for the encore. So let's wrap
do
this
it.
bitch up.
All right.
Come on, wrap it up.
His name is Brandon. Oh, his name is Brandon. He's the DJ.
His name is Shim. He's the rock star. Class
He's an asshole.
There. Now
So
we're
what do you
into the
got?
encore. What I was going to say is when you come into town, we should host an event in El Paso.
Yeah. What do you? Oh, like a live podcast?
Like we could
Or
do it
just what?
I mean, if we can figure out, we got some people down here that can help us rig up a system so that we can record it live. I know that, there's enough bars or something around here where maybe we could talk to them to be like, hey, we're looking to film something. Would you guys have the space? And then see if people want to show up and come hang out and make that when is Rage? Was that February? It's been rescheduled so many effing times. I just completely.
Yeah, it is getting to the point where it's a bit crazy how much it's getting rescheduled.
Let me see here. No, they're performing now. Oh yeah, look at July 9th.
2023.
No, this year.
Rage Against the Machine.
Mm-hmm.
Is
All right,
playing
so
this year.
ours is
What?
okay. So we're at they've got a tour kicking off here in just a couple of weeks. It looks like. Although by the time
Wait,
this
when's
episode
our
drops,
show?
not till next year, February 22nd.
You freaked me out, man. I thought you said July. I'm like, dude, I thought it was okay.
No, it's ours isn't until February 22nd, and then they flipped it because originally it was kicking off in El Paso and then going to Cruces. So now it's going Cruces and then El Paso, and they have a day off between.
Oh, don't. They're gonna fly back home, dude. They're not gonna hang out in El Paso with us.
Why not?
I mean, we could try, but I mean, you want to? Okay, so our goal is to do a History of Rock podcast live with Rage Against the Machine between the two shows.
Oh, dude, I wasn't even saying they would come to the podcast, but holy fuck, could you imagine if they did that?
Yeah,
They wouldn't do it.
We would never. We would do so much research for that. That would be where it's at.
Let me see here. What day of the week is that? February 2023. All right, so ours is a Wednesday. Ours is a Wednesday.
I think we should. I think that's more than enough time to plan for something in El Paso. The Rebels can make all of my fans that want to fly around and do stuff, they can make a thing out of it. We can do the podcast. I can put together a little show, just an acoustic thing, and we can get it at a pub and put together like a beer sponsorship and give everyone some drinks, and it'll be good. Yeah, we can.
Yeah,
do that
so
for sure.
that'll be a Wednesday. Our show's on the 22nd. And then if you want to, we could do it the Thursday, and then we could do it on the 23rd. We could even, I mean, how long are you going to plan on staying? You can stay with us for a month? No,
not a month, but I'll be there for I'll come down for quite a few days. Yeah, I'll be there. We'll make a thing out of it.
Yeah, because even then, by next February, we better have some fucking songs written from the history of rock.
Yeah.
You could perform those live.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we could do a live lockdown session. We could make it work. Yeah, we could do something cool. Yeah.
That's you, odd one.
Oh my god.
Hey! Oh,
All
and
right.
also in this encore here, before we wrap up, I was going to mention to anybody who's sticking around for this the idea that I had. So when I research these shows, it's kind of just like it's Wikipedia, it's news articles, it's watching YouTube videos, old interviews and stuff like that. And I just kind of compile it all together. And because I like to try to fact check as much as I can. I'm willing to bet there's been some shit that I've said that's probably not right. And if there is, you guys can always hit us up and let me know in the comments or hit me up on social media.
We actually put
Easter.
We should say we put Easter eggs in. We make sure that there's one significant mistake, and then you guys have to comment and find it.
Shim's a woman.
But no one's. Yep. Bitch.
But remember, no, because we already had the one thing that was false. So
Yeah, that was me. That was legit.
So
Yeah.
So what I mentioned, I texted Shim that it was super late last night. I think I was half asleep, and I had mentioned I want to do down the road here a little bit. We're gonna do episodes specifically on the sick puppies, and I'm gonna do the research the exact same way that I always do it. And then and like we did with Woodstock here, where he didn't get to, like, he got the show sheet and he started to read and stuff. He's not going to look at it at all. So everything that I get, he's going to be reading for the first time live on the podcast. And we could break it down by albums if you want. We could do one for Tripolar. We could do one for Connect. We could do
that would be very interesting. Yeah.
It
will be very interesting. It'll be interesting the amount of times that people have been like, hey, so I heard that you got the band name from this. And I'm like, where, how, why would anyone think of that? And it's fucking weird. And the truth is that I started to lie over when we were doing more interviews than we could make sense of. I would just make shit up. So I would put things out there and be like, well, the band name, there's like 3 different stories of how the band name came up. And I've never told anyone which one's the truth.
See, and maybe these episodes are the ones where you can reveal the truth finally.
Maybe that's it. Yeah.
Or maybe you create a fourth tale.
A fourth tale.
A fourth version.
I got to bounce off to the next thing, and then I'm going to hit you up as soon as I'm done, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
Love you guys. Everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Recording stopped.
I kind of want this to continue on here. You guys like how the over here? Look, if I go like this, it looks like my arm's going into my arm. But anyway, all right, I'm going to wrap this up. You guys have yourselves a fantastic rest of your week, and we'll be back with more Woodstock 69.